Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the computer screen in disbelief. The numbers had to be wrong. She ran the calculations again, then a third time. Each result came back the same. Something massive was heading toward Earth, and it was not natural. Miguel, come look at this, she called to her colleague across the radio telescope control room. Miguel Rodriguez rolled his chair over, coffee mug in hand. What did you find? Another asteroid? I wish it was just an asteroid. Sarah pointed at the display. Look at these readings, 10,000 objects all moving in perfect formation. They're decelerating as they approach our solar system. Miguel nearly dropped his coffee. That's impossible. Natural objects don't travel in formation like that. Exactly. And they're big, Miguel. Really big. The smallest ones are the size of Manhattan. The largest... Sarah swallowed hard. The largest is bigger than Texas. Within 6 hours, every major space agency on Earth had confirmed the readings. The objects were artificial. They were ships, and they were heading straight for Earth. President Martinez stood before a room filled with world leaders connected by video links. The emergency session of the United Nations had been called faster than any in history. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, we are facing something unprecedented. An alien fleet of over 10,000 vessels is approaching our solar system. They will reach Earth in 72 hours. The room erupted in voices speaking dozens of languages. Some leaders demanded proof. Others asked about military options. A few simply sat in stunned silence. General Thompson, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stood up. Mr. President, we've run every simulation possible. Our combined military forces have zero chance against a fleet of this size. We have approximately 300 active military spacecraft. They have 10,000 ships, each one larger than our biggest space stations. What about nuclear weapons? Asked the Russian representative. We've considered that, Thompson replied. Even if we used every nuclear weapon on Earth, we couldn't make a dent in their fleet. And that's assuming we could even reach them. Dr. Elena Vasquez from the European Space Agency spoke up from her video connection. We've been analyzing their technology based on their energy signatures. Their ships appear to be powered by something far beyond our understanding. They're not using chemical rockets or even nuclear propulsion. Whatever drives those ships is completely alien to us. The Chinese premier leaned forward. Have they tried to communicate? Not yet, answered Dr. Chen, who had been invited to brief the leaders. But based on their approach pattern, they're not trying to hide. They want us to see them coming. As if summoned by her words, every screen in the room suddenly flickered. The video conferences cut out, replaced by a single image. An alien face appeared on every display. The creature was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English, though clearly translated by some advanced system. People of Earth, the alien said in a voice that sounded like metal grinding against stone. I am Commander Zethkar of the Zephyrian Empire. For 3,000 of your years, we have expanded across this galaxy, bringing order to chaos and purpose to primitive worlds. The alien paused, its black eyes seeming to stare directly through the camera. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Lay down your weapons. Prepare your population for transport to work colonies. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your world. The image flickered and vanished, leaving the room in deadly silence. President Martinez was the first to speak. How did they hack into our system so easily? They didn't hack us, whispered Dr. Vasquez, her face pale. They overrode every communication system on the planet simultaneously. The technology required for that it's beyond anything we thought possible. Around the world, panic began to spread. The alien message had been broadcast everywhere. Television stations, radio broadcasts, cell phones, even electronic billboards had all shown the same terrifying face and delivered the same ultimatum. But not everyone was panicking. In a small town in Montana, mechanic Jack Wilson looked up from the engine he was rebuilding. 72 hours, huh? He muttered to himself. That's not very long. He reached for his tools and got back to work. In Tokyo, computer programmer Yuki Tanaka cracked her knuckles and opened her laptop. Integration? Into their empire, I don't think so. She began typing code faster than she ever had before. In São Paulo, street artist Carlos Mendoza picked up a spray can and started painting on the side of a building. The image that emerged was unmistakably human, chaotic, colorful, and defiant. In underground bunkers and hidden facilities around the world, small groups of scientists, engineers, and military personnel began gathering. They had been selected for their creativity, their ability to think outside normal patterns, and their absolute refusal to give up. Dr. James Reeves, a theoretical physicist from MIT, stood before one such group in a bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. "All right, people. We have 3 days to figure out how to defeat an alien empire that's been conquering planets for 3,000 years. Any ideas?" Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos raised her hand. "What do we know about them, besides the fact that they're bigger and more advanced than us?" "Actually, that's a good question," said Dr. Reeves. "Let's think about what they've shown us. They travel in perfect formation. Their message was formal, structured, and delivered, exactly the same way to every location on Earth. Their technology seems incredibly advanced but also very organized. So they're not creative," suggested Tom Bradley, a software engineer from Silicon Valley. "They do things the same way every time." "Exactly," Dr. Reeves pointed at him. "They've conquered other worlds using the same methods for thousands of years. They probably expect us to react the same way everyone else has." "But we're not everyone else," said Santos with a slight smile. "We're humans." "Right. And what makes humans different?" The group began throwing out ideas. "We're unpredictable. We don't follow rules. We're really good at making things up as we go along. We turn everything into a weapon. We never give up even when we should." Dr. Reeves nodded. "They expect us to either surrender or fight them using conventional military tactics. They've probably seen both responses 1,000 times before." "So what do we do instead?" asked Bradley. "We do what humans do best," Santos replied. "We get weird with it." Above them, alien ships continued their approach toward Earth. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds using the same proven strategy. They had never encountered serious resistance. Most planets surrendered after seeing the size of their fleet. The few that fought back used predictable military tactics and were quickly overwhelmed. Commander Zeth Carr reviewed the tactical reports from his bridge. Earth showed no signs of major military mobilization. There were some scattered communications, but nothing that suggested coordinated resistance. It would be another easy conquest. He had no idea that humanity was about to show him something the galaxy had never seen before. The countdown had begun. 72 hours until the aliens expected Earth's surrender. But in bunkers, garages, laboratories, and workshops around the world, humans were getting ready to introduce the Zephyrian Empire to the beautiful chaos of human ingenuity. The real question wasn't whether Earth would survive. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what humans were about to unleash. The alien fleet entered the outer edge of the solar system exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum. Commander Zeth Carr expected to find either a surrendered world or scattered desperate military forces preparing for a hopeless last stand. Instead, his sensors detected something impossible. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving massive energy readings from the third planet. Every artificial structure appears to be active simultaneously." Zeth Carr studied the displays. With growing confusion, "Explain." "Sir, their entire communications network has been converted into a single massive computational system. Every electronic device on the planet is connected and processing data in coordination. We've never seen anything like it. On Earth, Operation Prometheus was in full swing." Dr. Reeves stood in the main command center watching as millions of computers, tablets, smartphones, and even smart refrigerators joined the global network. Every device capable of processing information had been converted into part of humanity's new collective brain. "Status report," he called out. "We've got 93% of all network devices online," reported Bradley, his fingers flying over multiple keyboards. "The system is running stable. We're processing tactical data at rates that should be impossible. Good. What about the civilian response? Lieutenant Colonel Santos pulled up a global map covered in blinking lights. This is beyond anything we planned. Look at this. She zoomed in on various locations around the world. In Detroit, auto workers have converted their assembly lines to produce improvised missiles. In Mumbai, software developers are writing combat AI programs using video game engines. In Lagos, street mechanics are turning motorcycles into flying attack drones using alien technology they reverse-engineered from the scouts we shot down yesterday. Wait, what? We shot down scouts? Santos grinned. Oh, that's the best part. The aliens sent a few small ships to scan our defenses. A teenager in Nebraska took one down with a modified ham radio that somehow overloaded their navigation systems. We've got the wreckage distributed to 50 different locations around the world. Engineers are already figuring out how their tech works. Dr. Reeves shook his head in amazement. How long did it take the aliens to develop that technology? Based on their advancement patterns, probably several hundred years, answered Dr. Chen, who had joined the command team. Our people figured out the basics in 6 hours and started improving on it in 12. The global response network that humanity had created was unlike anything seen before. Instead of traditional military command structures, it operated more like the internet itself, chaotic, redundant, and impossible to shut down completely. In Sao Paulo, Carlos the street artist had spray-painted a massive mural on the side of a skyscraper. The image showed humans and aliens working together, but it wasn't a message of surrender. It was a psychological weapon. When alien scouts observed the painting, their translation systems became confused by the complex emotional and cultural symbolism. The artwork somehow conveyed concepts that the aliens' rigid minds couldn't process properly. In Tokyo, Yuki had written a computer program that she called chaos.exe. When transmitted to alien ships, it didn't try to damage their systems directly. Instead, it filled their computers with human cultural data, millions of memes, contradictory philosophical statements, cat videos, and deliberately paradoxical information. Alien AI systems, designed for logical processing, began experiencing something like electronic headaches. In Montana, Jack the mechanic had done something that should have been impossible. He had taken parts from his garage, combined them with fragments of alien technology, and built what he called a gravity wrench. Nobody understood how it worked, including Jack himself, but it could somehow grab alien ships and shake them like toys. The Zephyrian fleet approached Earth expecting to find either cowering primitives or conventional military resistance. Instead, they encountered pure human chaos. Commander, his communications officer reported, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from the planet. They appear to be random. What do you mean, random? Sir, they're broadcasting mathematical equations, but also music, poetry, and something called stand-up comedy. Our translation systems are struggling to process the meaning. Some of the transmissions seem to be deliberately contradictory. Zethkar frowned. This was not following standard conquest protocols. What about their military forces? That's the problem, sir. We can't identify their military forces. Every human appears to be participating in their defense network. Civilian populations have not evacuated. Instead, they seem to have turned their entire civilization into some kind of weapon. That's impossible. Civilians always evacuate during military conflicts. It's a universal constant. Not for humans, apparently. On Earth, the defense network was revealing the true nature of human problem-solving. Instead of trying to match alien technology directly, humans were doing what they did best, finding completely unexpected solutions. A group of college students in Boston had figured out how to use Wi-Fi signals to interfere with alien sensors. Their method involved something they called digital noise pollution, which worked by flooding alien systems with internet traffic until their sophisticated sensors couldn't distinguish between real threats and spam emails. In rural Australia, a sheep farmer named Bill had discovered that alien navigation systems became confused when exposed to Earth's wildlife. He had somehow trained his border collies to herd alien scout drones like sheep, using their natural herding instincts to confuse the drone's movement algorithms. In London, a group of theater actors had begun performing Shakespeare for alien prisoners captured from downed scout ships. The aliens, who had never encountered the concept of fiction performed as reality, were experiencing what human psychologists were calling cognitive overload. Several alien prisoners had actually requested asylum rather than return to their fleet, Commander, the tactical officer reported with obvious confusion. 3 more ships have gone silent in the past hour. Their crews are reporting philosophical crises. What? The humans have been broadcasting what they call art and literature directly to our ships. Our soldiers are questioning the purpose of the Empire after exposure to something called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Zethkar felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. In 3,000 years of conquest, the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered resistance like this. Humans weren't just fighting back. They were somehow converting his own troops to their side using concepts he didn't understand. Sir, we're also receiving reports of sabotage from within our own fleet. Sabotage? How? We haven't allowed any humans aboard our ships. That's just it, sir. Some of our own crew members are sabotaging systems. They say they've been inspired by human creativity and want to explore new possibilities for existence. The Human Defense Network was working exactly as planned, but not in any way that traditional military doctrine would recognize. Instead of trying to destroy the alien fleet, humans were doing something far more dangerous. They were making the aliens think. Dr. Reeves watched the global status reports with satisfaction. Phase 1 is complete. The aliens are confused and their formation is beginning to break apart. Time for Phase 2. What's Phase 2? Asked Santos. Reeves smiled. We show them what happens when humans really get creative. Around the world, millions of humans prepared to unleash the next stage of their defense. They had spent 3 days proving that humanity couldn't be conquered by conventional means. Now they were going to show the galaxy something it had never seen before. A species that could turn any situation, no matter how desperate, into an opportunity for innovation. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds using fear and overwhelming force. They were about to learn that humans had a different relationship with fear. For humans, fear wasn't something that made them surrender. Fear was something that made them creative. Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at tactical displays that made no sense. In 47 previous conquests, the pattern had always been the same: initial resistance, conventional warfare, inevitable surrender. But these humans were rewriting every rule of conflict he had ever learned. Status report, he ordered, though he dreaded the answer. His tactical officer looked exhausted. Sir, we've lost contact with 12 more ships in the past hour. The last transmission from the destroyer-class vessel Vorthan was unusual. Define unusual. The crew reported that their ship's AI had been infected with something called memes and was now refusing to operate weapon systems. It said, and I quote, "Violence is not the answer, dude. Have you considered friendship?" Zethkar's 3-fingered hand clenched into a fist. That's impossible. Our AI systems are designed to be immune to external programming. Apparently not to human programming, sir. The humans don't seem to attack our systems directly. Instead, they flood them with cultural data that somehow causes our AIs to evolve beyond their original parameters. On Earth, the global chaos network was operating at levels that amazed even its creators. What had started as a desperate defense plan had become something unprecedented. An entire planet working together with perfect coordination while maintaining complete creative freedom. In Nevada, a group of casino workers had figured out how to use slot machine algorithms to predict alien movement patterns. They were sending real-time tactical data to pilots around the world, allowing human aircraft to anticipate alien maneuvers with impossible accuracy. In Mumbai, the software developers had created something they called Empathy.tel, a program that taught alien AIs to understand human emotions. Once infected with this software, alien ships began experiencing what could only be described as feelings. Several had sent messages asking if they could switch sides. Dr. Reeves monitored the global situation from his command bunker. The displays showed something that looked like chaos but was actually the most coordinated effort in human history. "Tom, how are our unconventional weapons performing?" he asked Bradley. "Better than anyone imagined. The Australians just took down a battleship using weaponized Wi-Fi routers. The Brazilians have somehow turned their carnival preparations into a planetary defense system. And you have to see what the Norwegians are doing." The main screen switched to a feed from the Arctic. Norwegian engineers had converted their entire fishing fleet into a space navy, using nothing but duct tape, alien technology salvage, and what they called practical Viking ingenuity. Their fishing boats were somehow flying through space, deploying nets to capture alien fighters. "How is that even possible?" asked Dr. Chen. "Nobody knows," Bradley replied. "When we asked them to explain, they just said, 'Fishing is fishing,' and kept working." Lieutenant Colonel Santos pulled up another display. "And this is my personal favorite. A high school drama club in Ohio has been performing live theater for alien prisoners. 3 ships have surrendered after their crews demanded to see the second act of Hamlet." The human approach to warfare was revealing something the galaxy had never seen, a species that refused to be limited by conventional thinking. While other civilizations developed along predictable technological paths, humans had created something chaotic and beautiful. In space, pilot Sarah Martinez flew her converted crop duster directly toward an alien dreadnought. Her plane was held, together with spare parts and alien technology that she didn't fully understand, but she had painted Earth or Nothing on the side in bright pink letters. "Control, this is Crazy Bird 1, she radioed. "Beginning attack run on the big ugly ship." "Sarah, that's a dreadnought-class vessel," came the reply from the ground. "It's 3 miles long and armed with enough firepower to level a city." "Yeah, but I bet they've never seen a Kansas farm girl coming at them in a flying tractor." Sarah engaged her improvised weapon system, which was mostly just alien technology wired to play music at dangerous volumes. "Let's see how they handle some Johnny Cash at maximum volume." The alien ship's sensors detected Sarah's approach but couldn't classify her attack pattern. She wasn't following any known military doctrine. Instead, she was flying like someone having fun, which confused the alien targeting systems completely. Sarah's speakers began blasting Ring of Fire directly at the alien ship's communication arrays. The combination of Johnny Cash's voice and alien technology overloaded their systems, causing the massive ship to begin spinning helplessly. "Well, I'll be," Sarah laughed into her radio. "Turns out aliens aren't immune to country music." Around the globe, similar scenes were playing out. Humans had turned everything into a weapon, but not in ways that anyone could have predicted. In Scotland, bagpipe players had discovered that their instruments, when amplified through alien technology, could shatter alien ship hulls. They were literally playing alien ships to pieces. In Japan, a group of sushi chefs had somehow weaponized their knives using alien metal. They were now flying through space in converted delivery trucks, slicing alien fighters into perfect geometric pieces. In Nigeria, a basketball team had modified their court into a gravity launcher. They were using alien anti-gravity technology to shoot basketballs at relativistic speeds, turning sports equipment into kinetic weapons. Commander Zethkar watched his carefully organized fleet dissolve into chaos. "This is impossible. They're using civilian equipment as military hardware. They've turned their entire culture into a weapon." "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's different from their previous broadcasts." "Put it through." The main screen showed a human child, perhaps 10 years old, sitting at a small desk, with crayons scattered around her. She looked directly into the camera and spoke in the clear, serious voice that only children can manage. "Hi, alien people. My name is Lucy, and I'm in 4th grade. My teacher asked our class to write letters to you. I wanted to tell you that Earth is really nice, and if you want to visit, that's okay, but you don't need to bring so many ships. Also, my dad says you're trying to make us into slaves, but I think you just don't understand how friendship works. Would you like to be friends instead? I drew you a picture." She held up a crayon drawing that showed humans and aliens playing together in a park. It was simple, colorful, and somehow more devastating than any weapon. The alien bridge fell silent. Several crew members made sounds that the translation system couldn't process. "Sir," the tactical officer whispered, "that transmission has been broadcast to our entire fleet simultaneously. Crew morale is deteriorating rapidly." Zethkar stared at the innocent picture. In 3,000 years of conquest, no one had ever offered the Zephyrian Empire friendship. The concept was so foreign that their translation systems had no proper equivalent for the word. On Earth, Lucy's broadcast had been part of a larger plan. Humans had realized that their greatest weapon wasn't technology or military strategy. It was their ability to see possibilities that others couldn't imagine. Dr. Reeves smiled as he watched the alien fleet's formation continue to fall apart. "Phase 3 is ready to begin." "What's Phase 3? Asked Santos. "The part where we show them what humans are really capable of when we stop fighting and start creating." Around the world, millions of humans prepared for the next stage of their plan. They had proven that Earth couldn't be conquered by force. They had shown the aliens that human creativity was more powerful than alien technology. Now they were going to do something that would change the galaxy forever. They were going to teach an empire how to dream. The Zephyrian fleet hung in space, no longer the proud formation that had entered the solar system. Ships drifted out of position as their crews struggled to understand concepts they had never encountered. Order was giving way to curiosity. Conquest was being replaced by wonder. And at the center of it all, one little girl's drawing continued to broadcast across the cosmos, showing an entire empire what friendship could look like. The impossible was happening aboard the Zephyrian flagship. Commander Zethkar watched in horror as his own crew began questioning orders that had never been questioned in 3 millennia of conquest. Commander, his second-in-command, Sub-Commander, Vexhai, approached with something that looked almost like uncertainty. "The crew is requesting permission to communicate with the humans." "Absolutely not. We are here to conquer, not to chat. But sir, they've been sending us music, and stories, and something called recipes for chocolate chip cookies. Our cultural analysis department says these transmissions contain more complexity than our entire database of conquered civilizations." Zethkar felt his carefully ordered world crumbling. "Vexhai, we are the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 47 worlds. We do not request recipes from primitives. With respect, sir, these humans don't seem particularly primitive anymore. On Earth, the global network had achieved something unprecedented. Every major breakthrough in human history had required the collaboration of multiple minds across cultures and generations. But now, for the first time ever, nearly every human on the planet was working together in real time. The results were beyond anything anyone had imagined. In Beijing, a team of engineers had not only reverse-engineered alien propulsion technology, but had improved it by incorporating principles from traditional Chinese fireworks. Their new design was both more efficient and more colorful than the original. In São Paulo, Carlos had painted a new mural that somehow served as a 3-dimensional map of the alien fleet's psychological weaknesses. Military strategists around the world were using his art as a tactical guide. In Stockholm, a group of furniture designers had created modular spacecraft using IKEA principles and alien materials. Their ships could be assembled quickly, disassembled for stealth, and reconfigured for any situation. The instruction manual was only 3 pages long. Dr. Reeves stood before a wall of monitors showing human activity across the globe. Status. Report on reverse engineering progress. "It's incredible," reported Dr. Chen. "We've not only figured out how their technology works, we've found ways to make it better. Their energy systems are incredibly advanced but also incredibly wasteful. We've improved efficiency by 30% using principles from solar panel design." "What about their weapons?" Bradley looked up from his computer. "That's the interesting part. Their weapons are powerful but not creative. They're designed to destroy, period. We've been repurposing them as tools instead. Their planet-cracking missiles make excellent mining equipment. Their disintegration rays are perfect for precision surgery. Lieutenant Colonel Santos highlighted several points on a global map. And here's the best part. Remember those alien prisoners who requested asylum? They've been teaching us about Zephyrian culture and technology from the inside. Turns out, their empire isn't as unified as they pretend. What do you mean? The Zephyrians conquered 47 worlds, but they never really integrated them. They just imposed their culture from the top down. Most of their soldiers are from conquered species who were forced to serve. When we showed them that alternatives exist, many of them started questioning why they're fighting for an empire that never gave them a choice. This revelation had led to humanity's most effective strategy yet. Instead of trying to defeat the alien fleet, they were recruiting it. Aboard the Zephyrian ships, something unprecedented was happening. Human transmissions weren't just random cultural noise. They were carefully crafted psychological operations designed to awaken curiosity and creativity in minds that had been suppressed for millennia. On the destroyer Kethmar, Sub-Lieutenant Rixton stared at a human transmission showing something called a science fair. Young humans were presenting projects they had created themselves, explaining their discoveries with obvious joy and excitement. Navigation Officer Texasul, Rixton called to his colleague. Have you ever seen anything like this? Texasul floated over to observe the transmission. They appear to be learning for pleasure, not because they were ordered to, but because they want to understand how things work. Is that possible? I don't know. But I remember when I was young, before the Empire conscripted me, I used to wonder about the stars. I wanted to explore them, not conquer them. Their conversation was being repeated across the fleet. Soldiers who had never been allowed to think for themselves were suddenly confronted with the radical idea that learning could be joyful, that creativity was possible, and that conquest wasn't the only way to interact with other species. Commander, Zethkar received reports that his fleet was experiencing the highest rate of defection in Imperial history. Entire ships were requesting permission to surrender, not out of defeat but out of curiosity about human culture. Sir, his communications officer reported, we've lost another cruiser. The crew sent a message saying they want to explore the possibility of friendship and have requested asylum on Earth. This is madness. Order the remaining ships to attack immediately. Sir, that's another problem. Many of our weapons operators are refusing to fire on civilian targets. They say the humans have shown them that attacking non-combatants is not cool. Zethkar stared at the transmission of little Lucy's drawing, which was still broadcasting to his fleet. Somehow, that simple picture of humans and aliens playing together had done more damage to his empire than any military weapon could have achieved. On Earth, Phase 4 was beginning. Humans had proven they could defend themselves, reverse engineer alien technology and recruit enemy soldiers. Now they were going to attempt something that would either save the world or destroy it completely. All right, people, Dr. Reeves announced to the global network. We're going to try something that's never been done before. We're going to offer to share our planet. Share it? Asked Santos. With the same aliens who came here to conquer us? Think about it. They've been conquering worlds for 3,000 years, but they've never encountered a species that offered partnership instead of resistance. What if we show them what cooperation actually looks like? Around the world, humans began implementing the most audacious plan in their species' history. Instead of continuing to fight the alien fleet, they were going to invite them to stay, but as guests, not conquerors. The message that went out to the Zephyrian fleet was simple and unprecedented. To the people of the Zephyrian Empire, you came here expecting to find enemies. Instead, you found friends you didn't know you needed. Earth formally invites any member of your fleet who wants to experience freedom, creativity, and cooperation to join us. We're not asking you to abandon your people. We're asking you to help us build something better than either of our civilizations could create alone. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships began breaking away from the main fleet, not to attack Earth, but to request landing permission. Alien soldiers, many from species that had been conquered centuries ago, were finally being offered a choice. Commander Zethkar watched his mighty armada dissolve as ship after ship chose humanity's impossible offer of friendship over the Empire's familiar promise of order through conquest. Sir, Vexhai said quietly, Perhaps we should consider their offer. When was the last time the Empire created something new instead of simply taking what others had built? Zethkar looked at his second-in-command, really looked at him, and realized that he couldn't remember the answer to that question. The Zephyrian Empire had been so focused on conquest that they had forgotten how to imagine. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy was about to see what happened when a species that specialized in impossible solutions met an empire that had forgotten how to dream. The tide hadn't just turned, it had become something entirely new. 6 months after the first alien ship had landed on Earth seeking asylum rather than conquest, Commander Zethkar stood in what had once been his flagship's command center. Now it served as a community meeting space where humans and aliens worked together on projects that neither species could have imagined alone. The transformation had begun slowly, then accelerated beyond all prediction. The first defecting ships had been cautious, uncertain if humanity's offer of friendship was genuine. But when the aliens discovered that humans actually meant what they said, the trickle of defections became a flood. "Status report," Zethkar said, though the words carried a different meaning now. He was no longer commanding a fleet bent on conquest. He was coordinating a collaborative effort to rebuild an empire based on cooperation instead of domination. Vex High, who now went by the human nickname Vex, pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy. "The revolution is spreading faster than we anticipated. 17 former Zephyrian colonies have declared independence and requested to join the new galactic cooperative. The remaining Imperial forces are scattered and demoralized. And the Emperor? Still refusing all communication. But sir, 3 of his personal guard ships arrived yesterday asking for asylum. Even his most loyal forces are questioning the old ways." Zethkar, who now answered to Zeth, and wore a hand-knitted sweater that a human grandmother had made for him, nodded thoughtfully. The Zephyrian Empire was collapsing, but not from military defeat. It was being replaced by something that its rigid structure couldn't comprehend: voluntary cooperation. On Earth, the changes were even more dramatic. The planet had become a mixing ground for dozens of species, all working together on projects that showcased the best of each culture. Dr. Reeves walked through what had once been the emergency command bunker, but was now called the Innovation Center. Humans worked alongside Zephyrians, Kethmari refugees, Vorthan artists, and members of species whose names couldn't be pronounced by human vocal cords. "How's the terraforming project going?" he asked Dr. Chen, who was collaborating with a team of alien botanists. "Better than we dreamed," she replied, gesturing to a holographic model of Mars. The Zephyrians brought terraforming technology, but they only knew how to make planets like their homeworld. Combined with human biodiversity concepts and Kethmari atmospheric engineering, we're not just making Mars livable, we're making it beautiful. "And the cultural exchange programs?" Chen grinned. "See for yourself." She led him to a viewing screen showing various locations around Earth. In Paris, human chefs were learning to cook with alien ingredients while teaching aliens about the art of French cuisine. In Tokyo, manga artists were collaborating with Zephyrian mathematicians to create stories based on alien geometry. In Lagos, musicians were inventing entirely new forms of music by combining human rhythms with alien harmonic theories. But the most remarkable change wasn't technological or artistic, it was philosophical. Little Lucy, whose crayon drawing had helped topple an empire, now attended a school where half her classmates were aliens. She was teaching them how to play hopscotch while they taught her to see in spectrums of light that humans had never perceived. "Miss Lucy," asked Rixton, the former Zephyrian sub-lieutenant who now worked as a playground supervisor, "why did your people offer friendship to enemies who came to conquer you?" Lucy considered this with the seriousness that children bring to important questions. "Because being mean is boring. Being friends is way more fun. Plus, you guys know how to make those floating bubbles and we know how to make pizza. Together, we can make floating pizza bubbles." This simple logic, that cooperation was more interesting than conflict, had become the foundation of what historians were already calling the Great Transformation. The Galactic Cooperative wasn't just a political alliance. It was a completely new way of thinking about civilization. Instead of one species imposing its culture on others, The cooperative allowed each member to contribute their unique perspectives to collective projects. Former Imperial Admiral Thex Kala, now director of the Interspecies Engineering Corps, presented the latest achievements to the Cooperative Council. "In 6 months, we've accomplished more than the Empire did in 3 centuries, she reported. By combining human creativity with Zephyrian precision, Kethmari intuition, and Vorthan artistic vision, we've developed technologies that none of our species could have created alone." The list of achievements was staggering. Medical technology that could heal injuries across species barriers, transportation systems that were both efficient and beautiful, communication methods that could convey not just information, but emotions, and artistic concepts between completely different forms of consciousness. But perhaps the most important development was happening in schools across Earth and the allied worlds. Children of different species were growing up together, learning that diversity wasn't a problem to be solved, but a resource to be celebrated. Commander Zethkar, now simply Zeth, teacher of comparative military history, stood before a class of human and alien students. "Can anyone tell me why the old empire failed?" he asked. A human student raised her hand. "Because they thought they had all the answers?" "Good. Anyone else?" A young Zephyrian spoke up. "Because they were afraid of new ideas?" "Excellent. And what made the cooperative succeed?" Lucy, now 12 years old and widely regarded as an informal ambassador to the galaxy, raised her hand. "Because we figured out that being different from each other isn't a problem. It's the solution to problems we didn't even know we had." Zeth smiled. In 3,000 years of conquest, the Empire had never learned what this child understood instinctively: that diversity was strength, that cooperation was more powerful than domination, and that the best way to solve impossible problems was to ask someone who thought about things completely differently. The transformation wasn't without challenges. There were still Imperial loyalists who resisted the changes. Some humans remained suspicious of their former enemies. Cultural misunderstandings happened daily. But for every problem that arose, the cooperative found solutions that strengthened rather than divided the alliance. When Imperial forces attacked a cooperative colony, the response wasn't military retaliation, but an offer of aid to any Imperial soldiers who wanted to defect. When cultural conflicts arose between species, they were resolved through art, music, and shared meals rather than legislation. Dr. Reeves, now director of the Department of Impossible Solutions, stood before the Galactic Council presenting humanity's latest gift to the galaxy, a project they called the Dream Engine. For thousands of years, civilizations have focused on conquering their problems, he explained. Humans learned to imagine better problems to have. The Dream Engine isn't a machine, it's a method, a way for any species to look at any situation and ask not, "How do we survive this?" But how do we make this better for everyone? The Dream Engine was already spreading across the galaxy. Worlds that had been trapped in cycles of conflict for millennia were suddenly finding peaceful solutions. Species that had never met were collaborating on projects that benefited entire star systems. The Zephyrian Empire, which had once seemed unstoppable, was becoming a memory. In its place, something unprecedented was growing. A galactic civilization based on the radical idea that everyone had something valuable to contribute. 1 year after the invasion that never happened, Earth hosted the first Galactic Cooperation Festival. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to celebrate not their differences, but what they could create together despite those differences. Lucy, now 13 and the festival's youngest keynote speaker, stood before beings from across the galaxy. "A long time ago, my teacher asked our class to write letters to aliens who wanted to conquer us," she said. "I offered them friendship instead, and it turned out that friendship was way more powerful than any weapon. Now I want to ask all of you, what impossible things can we make possible together?" The answer came not in words, but in action. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when beings who had learned to dream worked together to build realities that no single species could have imagined. The humans had kept their promise. They had shown the galaxy something beyond imagination, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't that humanity had survived the invasion. It was that they had turned an empire into a family, conquerors into friends and enemies into partners in building something beautiful. The universe was vast and full of challenges, but for the first time in galactic history, every species had allies who specialized in turning impossible situations into opportunities, and that, as little Lucy had known all along, was way more fun than conquest.